Hello, everyone. Today we are sitting in that familiar place. Where your tea's warm, your phone is buzzing somewhere in the background, and your mind is itching for something more. Maybe you've just had one of those days where you dreamed of working abroad or chatting effortlessly with someone from halfway across the planet. Maybe you're wondering, is learning English really worth all the effort? Well, if you're still here, let me just say, you might be good at English if you listen to this video. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Also, tell me, where are you listening from? Drop your city and your local time in the comments. I love knowing when and where you're tuning in. Now, let's focus. Let's start our next journey together. You stepped into that airport, remember? The signs weren't in your language. People spoke quickly, like they had invisible engines in their mouths. But then something surprising happened. You understood. Not everything, no, but enough. You saw a gate number and matched it to your ticket. Someone said boarding and you moved. A stranger asked, "First time flying?" And you nodded. Nervous, but excited. You were in. That was the first moment you realized English is not just a language. It's a passport, a golden ticket, a secret code that lets you walk through unfamiliar worlds like a local. You didn't grow up speaking English. Maybe no one around you did. Maybe people even laughed when you mispronounced vegetable or said, "I am boring," instead of "I am bored." But you kept going. You whispered words under your breath on the train. You mouthed YouTube subtitles while brushing your teeth. You watched entire series just to understand one phrase. And little by little, you built something magical. Let me tell you how you learn English easily. Memorize it for beginners. Don't memorize rules. Live them. Listen, copy, fail, laugh, repeat. And the moment you realize English is more than grammar, that's the moment it sticks. You walked into your first international cafe, and the menu wasn't translated. You squinted at words like cappuccino, espresso, mocha, but you didn't panic. You pointed, you tried. "One medium caramel latte, please?" And the barista smiled. She understood you. You felt taller, braver, maybe even cooler. That's the gift of English. You don't need to be fluent to feel free. You just need to be willing. One day, you sat next to a tourist at a train station. He asked for directions. Others avoided him, shrugged, looked confused. But you tried. You said, "Go right, then left, cross the bridge." And he thanked you like you'd handed him gold. The word of the day? Navigate. To find your way. Not just through streets, but through life. English helps you navigate more than just geography. It helps you connect. Think about it. Every job listing that says English preferred. Every movie scene that lands just right because you get the joke. Every online tutorial, every global conference, every song lyric that suddenly makes sense. You're not just studying a language, you're unlocking the world. There's a reason airlines announce in English. There's a reason international companies choose it as their common tongue. It's not because it's perfect, it's because it's powerful, flexible, evolving. It lets you step outside your hometown, your routine, your limits. And one day you'll wake up and think, "Wow, I'm actually doing this." You'll book a ticket without using Google Translate. You'll chat with a hostel receptionist without freezing. You'll stand at the edge of a mountain or a museum or a market and think, "This is mine too." And even if you're just dreaming of that moment, guess what? You're already on your way. Every word you learn becomes a brick in the bridge you're building to the world. So next time someone asks, "Why are you learning English?" you'll smile, shrug, and say, "Because I want to go everywhere." You sat there, scrolling through your phone when something caught your eye. A trailer for a new movie. The actors were famous, the jokes were quick, And for once, you didn't have to read the subtitles. You understood. Not everything, no, but enough to laugh when the characters did. Enough to feel the sting of an insult, the rhythm of sarcasm, the glow of a compliment. And that was a win. You didn't pause to translate in your head. You didn't rewind 5 times to catch a phrase. You didn't feel like a tourist in your own mind. For the first time, you experienced English like a native speaker, raw, real, emotional. That's when you realized something big. Learning English isn't about tests or certificates. It's about living inside the language. You remember thinking, wait, am I really understanding this? You were. You're probably still wondering how you learn English easily. Memorize it for beginners. Here's a trick. Connect it to emotion. Watch what makes you laugh. Listen to what makes you cry. Feel what makes your brain lean forward and say, "Tell me more." That's when words stick. Not when you study, but when you feel. The word of the day? Fluent. But not just fluent in words, fluent in moments. Because in that moment, curled up in your bed, phone in your hand, headphones on, you were more than a student. You were a participant, a player in the global game of language and meaning. Then came another movie, and another. Series, clips, vlogs, react videos. You started hearing patterns. Want to go? That's nuts! No way. You didn't learn them from a book. You picked them up like a traveler picks up souvenirs, naturally, casually. And suddenly, you had a collection. Some phrases made you laugh out loud. Others made you rewind. A few made you text a friend just to say, "You have to watch this." That's when English became yours. And with every show, your ears grew sharper. You caught the tiny differences like, "Do you mind if I?" versus, "Would it be okay if I?" "Sounds good," versus, "I'm down." You began to think in these expressions, to reach for them instead of translating. English didn't sit on the outside of your brain anymore. It curled around your thoughts. It lived there. You started having movie moments in real life too. Like when a friend used a slang word you learned last night and you got it. Like when you said, "That's hilarious," and someone laughed, not at your English, but at your humor. You see, English is not about perfection. It's about participation. When you speak, even if it's not perfect, you join the story. You walk into the movie. You become a character. And guess what? People respond to that energy. They don't care about your accent. They care about your effort, your warmth, your timing, your smile when you get the joke, your shrug when you don't, your courage to try. You learned that confidence comes in whispers first, then grins, then full body laughter. One day you caught yourself doing something wild. You were quoting a line from a movie in English without realizing it. Boom, progress. You weren't copying anymore. You were creating, reacting, expressing, just like the actors on screen. And that's what language is, a mirror. It shows you the world, but it also shows you to yourself. Let me say this for anyone just starting out. How you learn English easily, memorize it for beginners, watch things that move you. It doesn't matter if it's a cartoon or a TED Talk. If your brain wants the content, it will keep the words. So don't be shy about watching your favorite rom-com 10 times or playing your favorite English song on repeat until your neighbors hate you. That's the good stuff. That's the secret sauce. And one day, when you meet someone new and they ask, "How did you learn English so well?" you'll grin and say, "Netflix." You walked into the room, a little nervous, okay, a lot nervous. Maybe it was a party, maybe it was a class, maybe just a Zoom call. but everyone was speaking English. Fast, confident, like it was no big deal. And for a moment, you thought, should I even try to speak? But you did. You cleared your throat. You said something simple. Something like, "Hi, I'm still learning English, but I really want to join this conversation." And the magic happened. People leaned in. They smiled. They listened. Because here's the truth. When you speak English, even just a little, you become more interesting, more connected. You go from being the quiet one to the one with a cool accent, from outsider to conversation starter. And suddenly, you're not just in the room, you belong there. Want to know how you learn English easily, memorize it for beginners? Use it to connect, not just to perform. Forget perfection, aim for presence. At that gathering or meetup or virtual hangout, someone asked where you're from. You explained. They asked what you do. You answered. And little by little, you noticed something odd. You weren't translating. You were talking. The word of the day, engage. Because when you speak English, you don't just speak, you engage. You spark interest. You draw people in. You create bridges. Someone complimented your effort. Your English is really good. You smiled, but you knew the truth. It's not good, it's growing. And that's even better. You started becoming the go-to person in your group for international conversations. You helped others translate menus, texts, even awkward emails. And people looked at you differently. Not as the quiet learner, but as the connector. Your jokes landed. Your stories made people laugh. Your weird childhood habits suddenly had an audience. That's when you learned the real secret. English isn't about sounding smart, it's about being real. Let's be honest, you're funny in your own language. You've got stories, sass, wit, sarcasm. But now, you're funny in English too. Maybe not always perfect, but perfectly human, perfectly you. And every conversation teaches you more than grammar ever could. You learned how to say, "You know what I mean?" Or, "That's so relatable." You learned how to interrupt politely. "Can I just add something really quick?" You learned to listen better too, because understanding English isn't just about speaking, it's about catching the rhythm of people, the rise and fall of emotion, the pauses that matter more than the words. And guess what? People noticed. They said, "Wow, your English is really natural." You said thanks, but I knew the truth. It's been living it. Want to memorize English faster? Do this. Go to places, online or offline, where you can use it to make someone laugh, help someone out, or share something about yourself. Because emotion sticks. It's the glue. You also realize something else. Your voice matters. Not just in your language, not just in your country, but everywhere. Because you are not just learning English to fit in, you're learning it to stand out. And that's when you became the most interesting person in the room. Not because you were perfect, but because you were brave. And people love that. So next time you walk into a room, or a comment section, or a conference call, and you're tempted to stay silent, remember, someone's waiting to hear your voice, in your accent, in your words, in your real, beautiful English. And you've earned that stage. It was just another Tuesday morning. You showed up to work, same as always. Emails piling up, coffee half drunk, meetings you didn't ask for. But then your manager said, "Hey, can you join the Zoom call with our partners from London?" Your stomach dropped. Me? Yes, you. You're the only one here who can really handle it. And just like that, your English wasn't just a skill, it was a superpower. You sat up straighter, opened your laptop, took a deep breath, and when the video call began, your voice did something amazing. It showed up. You greeted them with a polite good morning. You listened carefully. You asked questions, rephrased ideas, typed notes while nodding like a pro. You weren't perfect, but you were clear. And at the end of that call, you got a message from your manager. "Great job. You really saved the day." That's how English makes you the MVP of the office. Let me tell you how you learn English easily. Memorize it for beginners. Use English to solve problems. You'll remember faster when there's pressure, emotion, or a small win involved. Our brains are weird like that. They love relevance. The word of the day? Reliable. Because now when something needs to be done in English, people turn to you. Why? Because you've proven you can handle it. And with every meeting, every email, every call, you got sharper. You noticed how professional English is actually code switching. It's not about fancy words, it's about tone. You learned that "I'll look into it" really means I don't have an answer yet, but I sound responsible. That "let's circle back" means let's pretend we'll do this later. That "per my last email" means did you even read what I wrote? It's funny, but it's also powerful. You started writing better emails, less Google Translate, more you. "Hi team, just a quick update. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks in advance." At first, you copied. Then you adapted. Then you created your own style. You wrote that PowerPoint presentation. You delivered that pitch. You read contracts. You took notes. You summarized meetings for your coworkers who don't speak English. And people noticed. "You're really good at this. How did you learn English so well?" You smiled. Long story. But you know the real answer. You practiced like it mattered, because it did. Then came the big moment. The company had international visitors. Real suits, real schedules, real accents. You were nervous, but you showed up. You offered to host them, to translate, to connect. You cracked a joke at lunch, and they laughed. You explained a local custom, and they smiled. And when they left, they told your boss, "You've got a gem on your team." Boom. That's English. Not just a language, but leverage. You realized something else too. English isn't about getting a better job. It's about being better at your job. Suddenly, training videos made more sense. Manuals didn't scare you. You could troubleshoot errors online. You joined webinars, left comments, DM'd industry leaders. The world of work expanded. And maybe, just maybe, you started dreaming bigger. What if I worked abroad? What if I freelanced with clients overseas? What if I started my own business? That's what English does. It stretches your imagination until it fits a new future. And all because you said yes to one little question. Can you join the call? So here's how you memorize this lesson forever. Say yes more often. Step into the English-speaking role, even if it terrifies you. You'll learn faster when your back's against the wall, and that adrenaline becomes your best teacher. You've got this. It started small, maybe a word you heard once in a podcast, something like curious or spontaneous. You didn't even know how to spell it at first, but it stuck. It rolled around in your brain all day like a marble in a jar. And the next day, you used it, out loud, in a sentence, and it felt amazing. That was the moment you realized learning English wasn't just changing your language, it was changing your brain. You started noticing patterns, not just in English, but in everything. You began to think in layers. This word has two meanings. This structure could work better. This message could be shorter, clearer, stronger. It was like your mind got a software upgrade. The word of the day? Adaptable. Because that's what English learners become. You don't just learn a language. You learn to adjust, to listen better, to speak differently, to process faster. Want to know how you learn English easily? Memorize it for beginners? Trick your brain into thinking it's fun. Use games, puzzles, wordplay, riddles, tongue twisters, or even better, jokes. Because when you laugh, you remember. You started to notice things like, why does read sound like read in the past?
Why does though sound nothing like through or tough? Why do we say a pair of pants when it's clearly just one piece of clothing? You shook your head and laughed. English is a mess sometimes, but that mess, it kept your brain engaged. You began to see the world differently. You spotted idioms in articles. You paused music to look up lyrics. You asked questions like, why do Americans say break a leg when they mean good luck? Or, what's the difference between make and do again? You didn't stop asking. And that constant curiosity, that was the real learning. You started to realize how English pushed you to multitask, listening while writing, speaking while thinking, reading while interpreting tone. Your memory improved. Your reflexes got faster. You could explain a joke and appreciate the joke. You became a language ninja. And then it bled into other parts of life. You got better at organizing your time, better at understanding people, better at solving problems without panicking. Why? Because English had trained you to pause, observe, respond, and not just react. You even caught yourself using English to calm down. You'd whisper, "It's okay. Breathe, you got this." Not in your native language, but in English. That's when it hit you. English was now part of your inner voice. It didn't replace your first language. It didn't erase your culture. It just added a second mirror to see yourself in, a mirror where you were slightly more patient, more expressive, more global. And sometimes when you couldn't find the word in your language, the English one just showed up. Not because you forced it, but because it fit. Want a quick hack for learning faster? Tie new words to feelings, memories, or visuals. Don't just say apple. Remember the time you bought an apple in London and dropped it on the bus floor. That's sticky. And don't be afraid of repetition. Brains love it. They don't get bored, they get stronger. So re-watch that funny clip. Reuse that phrase. Revisit that page in your notebook that's full of messy scribbles and random arrows. That's gold. You even started sleeping differently. Yeah, really. Some nights, your brain replayed words as you drifted off. Actually, obviously, as a matter of fact, and you dreamed in English. Little fragments, strange conversations, but still, you dreamed in the language you once feared. And when you woke up, it didn't feel foreign anymore. It felt familiar. It felt like yours. So when people ask you now, why bother learning English? You don't say, for work or for school. You say, because it rewired my brain. It made me sharper. It made me me.
There was a moment. You were standing on a quiet street, maybe waiting for a bus or walking your dog or just watching the sunset through a dusty window, and someone asked for help in English. You blinked. They said, "Excuse me, do you know where the nearest ATM is?" Without thinking, you answered, "Yeah, go down this road, then turn left at the lights. There's one near the bakery." And just like that, it was easy. You didn't rehearse, you didn't panic, you just spoke. And as they smiled and said thank you, you realized something powerful. You had become the kind of person you used to admire, someone who could speak English with calm, with ease, with confidence. The word of the day, resilient, because you didn't just survive the awkward, confusing parts of learning, you thrived through them. You remembered the old days when "how are you" felt like a test, when asking for directions was a whole mental chess game. You remembered the fear of sounding stupid. And now, you'd earned your courage. How you learn English easily, memorize it for beginners? Here's the secret that nobody talks about enough. Keep going, especially when it's boring, slow, or messy. Because language learning isn't a straight line. It's a spiral. You circle back again and again, each time a little better. There was another moment, too, more personal. You were at a family dinner. Someone played a YouTube video in English.
Everyone looked confused. But you? You understood. You translated. You explained the joke. They laughed because of you. You weren't just learning a language, you were becoming a bridge. And it happened again when you traveled. You stepped into a taxi, pointed at your hotel address, and when the driver said, "English?" you said, "Yes." And it was fine. You talked about the weather, the food, you asked questions, you complimented the city. You weren't just surviving in a foreign place, you were thriving in it. You ordered food at a busy street stall. "Can I get the grilled one, please?" You checked into a hotel. "Do you have any rooms available for 2 nights?" You even made small talk at a museum. "Wow, this is older than my country." You weren't faking confidence anymore. You had it. You used to write down every new word like a treasure. Now you just used them. You started texting friends in English, leaving comments, writing captions, making playlists with titles like "Vibes When You Finally Speak English." Because now English was not just a tool, it was a part of your identity. You remembered your first speaking class, when your hands were sweaty and your mind was full of fear. You remembered your first voice message in English, how many times you re-recorded it. You asked, "Did I say that right?" And now you ask, "Did you catch the pun?" That's growth. Your voice got stronger, clearer, kinder, and sometimes even funnier. You learned how to say, "Let's not overthink it," or "That's totally up to you," or even, "Honestly, I didn't expect that." You didn't just learn English, you lived it. You earned it. You began helping others too. Someone younger asked you, "How do I improve my English?" And you told them the truth. Talk a lot. Even when it's weird, even when it's wrong, you'll learn more by doing than by waiting to be perfect. Because perfection never comes, but progress loves action. You found friends across time zones, you joined online communities, you watched people go from strangers to supporters. Your world got bigger, and your heart did too. Every English mistake you made taught you something. That it's okay to say "I goed" before "I went." That it's okay to ask, "What does that mean?" That it's okay to laugh at yourself and keep going. And every time you didn't give up, you built resilience. You didn't just learn English. You became someone who says yes to new things, someone who starts conversations, someone who's not afraid to be seen, heard, and understood. And now you look back and think, if I could do this, what else am I capable of? You close your notebook, turn off your screen, and look out the window and smile. Because this isn't the end of your English story, it's just the end of the first chapter.